So Mandy, one of the longest tenured folks here at UNCOMN, right? What,
Yep.
10 years,
Yep.
10 plus years?
Almost 10 years in October.
Wow, that's amazing. It's amazing, and that's following a military career, right?
10 years in the Air Force, yeah.
10 years in the Air Force. Excellent. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Very proud of our veterans here at UNCOMN. That's for sure. It's a big part of who we are and a big part of our culture. So definitely has been a great journey having you on the team. You know, I mean, can you imagine where you are today from where you were 10 years ago?
No, it's pretty amazing actually. And it's scary. The transitions are really scary. You know, anytime you transition from one thing to another, and when you've been in a position for a long time, transitions are scary. But I came to Aegis, and it was like finding another home. So it was pretty awesome.
No, I appreciate that. We really do try to make it feel that way, right? And sometimes our lawyers tell us we can't.
Lawyers.
But so you've had this really cool journey over the last so many years, because I think originally, weren't you kind of in our J54 space? Kind of talk a little bit about that, but you've now transitioned over to being probably, one of our best architects. So tell me a little bit about, what you were doing in the beginning and then how that kind of relates to what you're doing today.
Yeah, so in the beginning, just kind of harnessing my Air Force experience as a planner and a logistician, I slid into the J54, then the J54. They've been reorged a bunch of times.
Sure.
But I slid in there, and I was doing campaign planning for Transcom. And it was really cool. It was really fulfilling work, and I really enjoyed it. But along the way, Jim Phelps, he was whispering, hey, you should do some architecture stuff. You should learn some BPMN. You should do this. And so I started kind of learning a little bit about it. I attended one of Wayne's boot camps, and I started really to enjoy it and understand what process modeling is. And it makes a lot of sense as a logistician to kind of lay out a process, like a linear process, and to lay it out step by step. So sure. It really kind of made sense to me. And it was fun. So
right.
And so then when the opportunity came, I was in the vault for 5 years. So I was like, I need to get out of here because I've never done anything for 5 years.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
So 5 years hit, and I was like, let's do something different. And they're like, well, we have this cool contract called EAD, and so I was able to get on board with that contract, and the rest is kind of history.
Yeah.
So.
For sure. So you talk a little bit about being a logistician, right? Mm-hmm. And me, I don't have a military background, but I've been around enough to know, there are a lot of moving pieces when we're trying to do a movement, right? Mm-hmm. And whether it be trying to load up a bunch of trains and move something across the country, or correctly load plan and load a C-17, or there's all these elements of things. You talked about it. There's a process. You have to be rigorous in the process, because if you don't, people's lives are at stake in some regard, right?
For sure.
So because of that rigor that you've had, that you're used to, how is that translated into architecture, the way we do architecture? Because what I've been told by other people is that they really appreciate the rigor that we put into it, the quality. It's always. They always know what we're giving them because we adhere to certain standards, And is there a way to kind of relate that back to being a logistician in a way?
I think definitely, right? So there's processes are critical and inherent, and they lead to good quality, and they lead to a predictable outcome, right? And that's what we want. We want to deliver high quality products that are that make sense and that are tailored to what our customer or client needs. And when we can do that, then our value, I think, just goes up, because they know what they're going to get when they get a product from UNCOMN.
Sure.
We have various checks and balances built into our systems with our configuration managers, and then all of our team leads, they go and they ensure that the quality is being met as well. So I think that I think that we provide let's just talk about our training for it.
Sure.
I don't know hardly any places that do the amount of architecture training that we do. We have got a skilled group of architects master architects that know what to do. Heck, one of the guys wrote a book about it, so we know what we're talking about when it comes to architecture, and then we train the people to do it, and then we just continuously manage the quality of our products.
Sure. No, that's awesome. Yeah, training is definitely really important. We had a customer in the last couple months made a comment about that crazy architecture factory in the Midwest that you guys have, right?
Yeah.
And that's coming from an East Coaster, right? But they're starting to see it. They're starting to realize that we do take this very, very seriously. And at the end of the day, architecture doesn't have to be just about compliance, because I think 10 years ago, that's what everybody chalked that up as, right? It was a requirement that had to be met by a piece of paper sliding across the desk with a signature on it, and that's all it was. And you just put it in a filing cabinet and you go away. But that's not what architecture is to us, right? It's more than that, right? What are we trying to do with architecture now?
Well, I can't speak to right now because I'm a little bit removed from it.
Sure.
But I can tell you that I think that one of the intents behind architecture is to be able to build systems the right way from the beginning, right? And so if you do it from an architecture standpoint, if you build the building blocks, like we talk about building the airplane in flight, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to do that typically.
Right.
You don't. You want to build it on the ground. You want to test it before you can get it up in the air. And so I think that you can use architecture at the beginning of a system or at the beginning of development, and that will help build it the right way so that all the connections are there. They meet all the security requirements that are necessary, and then where everything goes. You have order to a system, whereas a lot of times we're doing it backwards, right? We are reverse engineering an architecture on a system that was previously made, and maybe there's been multiple updates to it, and so then you don't know where everything goes, and you're having to do all of this extra work to try to do that backwards tracing.
Sure.
So I think that we talk a lot about systems engineering too, right? And so
Absolutely.
I think that's where system engineering comes in, right? So that you can engineer it and you build it from the beginning,
Absolutely.
as opposed to having to do it from the end.
Right. Architecture first.
Yes.
Right?
For sure.
Yeah. And that's why, you talked a little bit about systems engineering. We're starting to use model-based systems engineering tools. And one of the things that I really appreciate about it is, you talk about, the rigor we put into helping design and build up a system, but we also now have the ability to tie all the systems together in these tools. And so if I make a change to one, we can now see the ripple effect of how it impacts the others, and that's a huge deal, right? I mean, it's a game-changing ability that companies haven't had before. Have you seen any examples or things like that that had as you've worked in architecture and things like that, where you've had an aha moment maybe with a customer where you showed them something or you showed them a second or third order effects and they were kind of like, oh wow, like I didn't even realize that was possible.
Well, yeah, and it's all about the systems that you use, like the tools that you use to model those, to model the systems, right? Tools that you use to model the systems. But it's the tools, they're powerful tools. And so then whenever you create those models, you can show layers, you can show connectivity, you can take stuff in and out, and you can really kind of display in a tangible way.
It's okay.
You can depict where those connectivities are, and then where those layers are, and then you can take stuff away.
Sure.
Or you can show them through a dashboard or through just bringing up the model itself. And I think that goes so far, as opposed to printing out a big giant map that's static. It doesn't change. You can't show layers. You can't do anything. But if you can pull up the tool that you're using, and you can show them just by a couple clicks of where the system's going, where the information is coming from, and then if you take out a system or if you take out a node, what happens?
Right.
Where are your vulnerabilities, right? And I think that especially applies to the work we do with the Department of Defense, right? Because if we have these critical systems, and if something happens to one of those critical systems, a node goes down, there's some sort of an attack or something like that, what's the result?
Right.
What's the impact?
The impact, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. And the interesting thing is, it kind of ties us back to being a logistician, because you had to do
does.
the same thing with supply chains, suppliers, and impacts on those things. And, if we take this route, do we have a higher likelihood of being attacked, or that route, and so all those considerations, right? And that's why we do a lot of modeling, simulation, and logistics. And we are finally to a point with some of these tools now in architecture that we can do the same thing. We can model and simulate impacts on systems and understand the risk and the likelihood of changes that could impact them, and really take things down for us, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So another thing that you've done really well for us as a company is you've given back a lot. You've run a lot of organizations for us. I think you've led several organizations, maybe our Christmas efforts. You've helped with some of our women, organizations. Tell me a little bit about some of those things you've been able to work with over the last several years, because it has had a huge impact on our company.
Oh yeah. So I was the Enterprise Solutions Cop Lead for a few years, more than a few probably.
Sure.
But and I really, really enjoyed my time working with the community of practice. It was really cool to get to be able to impact so many people. We have 100 people in our community of practice, and it's cool to be able to ask for training topics, and to really get to connect with all the people in our community, and to provide them with valuable and impactful kind of training.
Life-changing training, right? You're helping develop these folks into something else.
Yeah, but we're helping develop them into something. But also, it's a community, right? It's building that village, because we have a lot of people that aren't necessarily on campus all the time, and so they may not have built that community, and they maybe feel isolated. And so that's part of the community of practice too, is to help build that community, to help have resources if there's any questions, or if there's any HR issues or anything too. We've helped kind of get them connected with our HR team, which is fantastic.
Sure.
And so yeah, and then on top of it's the morale building, which is probably the funnest part of the job, is getting out there and getting to do fun things with people, and you build those relationships when you get to do fun things, right?
Absolutely.
And so then it's very rewarding to get to interact on so many different levels with such a great group of people. But yeah, and so with the community of practice, and then just Friday, UNCOMN partnered with this Sisters in Service organization,
right,
which is absolutely cool. I joined up. I was like, sign me up. I'm here. So it's basically it's a group to help connect female veterans and to help them build that community. In the military, you have such a great community of people. It's really kind of weird, like you. Just even serving in a non-deployed fashion, right? You build these connections.
Sure.
And then, and it is a brotherhood and a sisterhood for sure. And then you leave it, and it's so lonely, and
right,
it's so hard because you don't have that community. But that's what the Sisters in Service organization does, is it helps female veterans kind of build that community back, right? And so because they're veterans, you all have this common ground. Like, you can meet another veteran. I got a couple friends over there that I didn't serve with, but because we know what our background is, instantly there's a connection.
Right, right. Yeah, it's incredible how the military, just the training, the experience, the processes that you've gone through, it creates something that people like I don't have. I have no idea what you've gone through in your career and others have gone through in their careers, but I can tell there's always a link there. There's always something. Mm-hmm. It's a even if it's a very far-fetched, you guys have at least so many things in common, yeah, that you can relate to each other and you can support each other, and I know that's incredibly important, especially like you said, after you move on from the military, right? It can be very, very hard. I've seen a lot of that as we hire a lot of veterans here, and a lot of times we hire them as they're retiring, and that first 6 to 12 months can be very, very, very tough. And so, yeah, I really appreciate all the work that you've done to help veterans and help our employees and bring people together. It's been tremendous. So awesome.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.